Despite a global recession, Guyana's economy remains stable, and President Barry Jagdeo forecasts that 2008 will end on a positive note.
Hundreds of Guyanese have taken the bold step to get tested and knowing their status on this year's National Day of Testing.
And NCN has learned that Foreign Trade Minister Dr. Henry Jeffrey was not at Cabinet on Tuesday last, and President Barry Jagdeo has reportedly said that as far as he is aware, Dr. Jeffrey is a Minister of Government.
The details of these and other stories, Business News, Eye on the Judiciary, Health Tips, and of course the latest sporting action in a Diamond Mineral Water and NCN Sport News. After these, stay tuned. Good evening, I am Janelle Persson.
And I'm Paul Moore.
With this edition of the 6 o'clock news for today, Friday, November 21, 2008. Paul.
Thanks, Janelle. Despite a global recession, Guyana's economy remains stable, and it is forecast that 2008 will end on a positive note, unlike the ravages encountered by the other developed countries. This is according to President Barry Jagdeo, who told NCN that the local economy will end the year with about 3% growth. Here are details.
The president says this figure is slightly below the projected rate and anticipates that it could be affected by lower remittances, less demand for products, and less inflow of investment. He told NCN in an exclusive interview that bringing the sectors together is critical, noting that he has had discussions with the private sector and other groupings in this regard.
And the government will look at trying to balance between two forces. That is, trying to spend more to stimulate demand, but in a labor-intensive way, whilst at the same time, by spending more, or we could, recognizing at the same time that by spending more, we can drive up inflation because the demand for foreign currency would be higher and stuff like that. We've experienced some downturn in inflationary trends in the world now, but we have to be very cognizant of building a government policy, both fiscal and monetary, around those two variables, about stimulating some demand and employment through greater spending and spending in a different way.
Mr. Jagdeo says while the drop in remittances and investment may not be a large sum, it can affect the entire Caribbean region, leading to higher inflation rates. The head of state assured that Guyana's financial and insurance sectors and pension fund investments have been reviewed and are secure.
We have had a good look at our financial sector, our insurance sector. We've looked at the investment of our pension funds. There are some minor issues, but on the whole, I think that we have an overall sound system.
He noted that there is evidence of many companies repatriating after recognizing they could lose their capitals in the credit crunch.
There was a time when people invested abroad because they got a better return, higher return, and many thought that they were investing in safe instruments. Now they're recognizing that they could lose their capital. So right across the Caribbean, many people are now repatriating funds, even if they have to get a lower rate of return on their investment or their capital.
Following the slowdown in the global economy a few months ago, President Barry Jagdeo has said that his administration will create a firewall to protect local companies from the effects of the credit crunch. He has since held meetings with the banking and insurance sectors with an assurance that Guyana is safe. Edward Lane, the 6 o'clock news.
Hundreds of citizens have taken the bold step to get tested and know their HIV status on this year's National Day of Testing. And NAP's coordinator Dr. Shanti Singh says the statistical report based on the tests will be released next week. More from Monica Jones.
Today, National Day of Testing, hundreds have queued at various testing sites across the country, and NAP's coordinator Dr. Shanti Singh says the statistical report based on the tests done will be released within a week. She seemed confident that the target of testing some 10,000 persons will be met, as already 8,000 were tested by midday. This may have to be clarified, however, since many persons may have done the test more than once.
Those kind of analyses we will do, and that should be available within a week So by next week, Thursday, Friday time, we will be able to send a complete report out to persons. But we have seen from last year that if you would have seen today's papers, that last year there was a prevalence of about 1.1%, and the year before it was thereabouts as well. So we're not anticipating that it will be higher.
Minister within the Health Ministry, Dr. Barry Ramsaran, who also took the chance to be tested, says the ministry is satisfied with the response from citizens.
The ministry and NAPS, using this evidence, focused on that group. That's why we have the working places covered. 50% of our sites are there. Of course, we haven't forgotten the other parts of the population, and we're reaching out today. For example, at Critchlow Labour College, where you have a lot of students who might not necessarily be in that age group, they too are having centers at the City Mall, at busy places where it's easily accessible, and at the same time it shows people how comfortable they can be or can get with testing. It's a form of advocacy, and it has succeeded. We're so far quite happy at the response.
The NCN News team has joined the thousands of Guyanese in getting tested for HIV. I hope you have taken the opportunity in knowing your status. Monica Jones, the 6 o'clock news.
President Barry Jagdeo has called on critics to recognize the successes of the security forces in recent months. The president, in an interview with NCN yesterday, said he's pleased with their successes recently. Edwin Lane reports.
President Barry Jagdeo says while the security forces have not eliminated crime totally, they have managed to ensure that society is more secure, reflecting on the 2002 crime spree and the massacres earlier this year. The president says the forces' consistent focus and efforts have shown progress, pointing to the death of Rondell Rawlins and Jermaine Charles. He, however, noted that there are still remnants of the criminal enterprise, citing the Gaisuco payroll robbery a few weeks ago, for which he urged the forces to remain vigilant.
I'm very pleased with the focus in the past several months of the joint services. They've been on the ball. They've had a significant number of successes, both in apprehending criminals and charging them. And they must be commended. And I would wish that all the people in society, all of those groups who were so critical of the joint services at one time, that they will commend the good work that our policemen and soldiers have been doing.
The president, however, warns that the security forces cannot become complacent, since there are still a few who are bent on creating havoc. Mr. Jagdeo reiterated his government's commitment to the security forces, noting that he is prepared to provide the necessary tools to make them more effective.
Not just the police stations, but we are focusing on upgrading forensic capabilities, investigative capabilities. We've toughened a large number of laws. We've introduced new laws concerning wiretapping for criminals and plea bargaining, so we can have higher rates of prosecution, electronic evidence giving. So today the policemen, the law enforcement officers, have more tools to fight criminals.
The president has called on Guyanese to give the security forces praise where it is due. He pointed out that the force has come under heavy scrutiny prior to the fine man's killing. Edward Lane, the 6 o'clock news.